Oi oi, my BRS brethren, Paul Allen Sheldon Cooper here. Just so you know what we're doing here, as you may have seen, I've joined the team as a player and I'm now starting some coaching sessions. All of these sessions are going to be concept sessions, rather than just your regular hand reviews. I'm going to be coming up with some of the weird things that I do in my game. As you've probably seen, I play spots a little bit weird, a little bit non-standard. I'm going to be coming up with theories and concepts on how I play, and I'm going to be trying to convey it to you in these little sessions. You can usually sign up for them on the Facebook page, usually Mondays and Fridays. But on top of that, I'm going to be recording these short 15-20 minute videos and letting you guys get a look at my ideas this way. What I'm hoping to do from this is that you guys can see some of the spots I play a little bit strange. You can take a few things away into your game, maybe get away from the usual standard GTO strategies, throw a few, curveballs in there, confuse a few people, and add a few big blinds to your win rate. Hopefully, if you can't make the sessions, you can watch some of these videos and catch up or keep up, and hopefully I'll bring some more people on board, and you'll be able to, you'll see that you like these videos and you'll maybe jump in some of the sessions. So, straight into my first concept. Some of you guys may have seen, I don't always raise the button. In certain situations I have a button limping strategy, and I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about that. So let's jump straight in and have a look. This might be a bit boring, guys, just going to run through this Word document really quickly so you get an insight into my strategy, then we'll get some hand reviews going. Conventional thinking is that limping is weak play and should be avoided. It takes away our opportunity to win the pot immediately, aggression wins pots immediately, and is the key to no limit hold'em strategy, and therefore you should enter almost all of your pots raising. This is the conventional thinking. This has been around, since the mid-1990s, when people started to really take no limit hold'em more seriously and solve the math. I think it really reached its nadir in 2010, 2012, when you saw people 3, 4, 5, 6 betting pre-flop every hand, and things were crazy. Nowadays things are a little bit more standard. We have a lot more calls, and therefore I think this strategy is a lot more viable. So here's my thinking that is outdated. Oh, spoiler alert there. Try not to run too far ahead. Times when I think limping the button is a good standard strategy. I'm going to talk about standard strategies and exploits. These first ones are standard strategies. Action is folded to us on the button. The blinds have reshove stacks, which I've defined here as less than 20 big blinds. It can really be anything that they're willing to reshove, so anything less than 25 or 30 big blinds. In this spot, we have a hand we can profitably play with position. However, we could not raise call the hand profitably to a 3-bet jam. Think hands like Queen 9 offsuit, King 5 suited, Ace 3 offsuit, for example. Jack 5, Jack 6 suited, Jack 8 offsuit. All these hands which we would love to play in position, but if we min raise, we may well get jammed on and have to give up all of our equity. In these spots, you could limp these hands in very comfortably, see a flop. The blinds are deeper stacked, but are very, very aggressively 3-betting versus late position opens. We have a hand which plays well in position, however we don't want to play a bloated plot with a poorer stack to pot ratio or get into a re-raising war pre-flop with. Think when we're 30 to 35 bigs deep effective and we have a hand like Queen 8 suited on the button. A 3-bet pot could be anywhere between 6 to 8 big blinds, and that can leave us with a poor SPR. Here I've said we could end up with an SPR after the flop of only 2.5 to 3x. At this point we're going to be getting all of our money in on good flops, on the flop, on the turn. We're not going to be able to play the streets, we're not going to be able to play down the river, we're not going to be able to maximise our positional advantage, which is not what we want. Always remember that against good aggressive players we have to occasionally limp stronger hands, including our premiums, to balance, and also for board coverage. The reason for this is, if we only limp the middle suited connectors that I've explained, the suited kings, the weak aces, on certain board textures like Ace King 9 Rainbow for example, we're immediately range capped. With the hands that we limped in, the top of our range would be something like ace-5 offsuit, and in those spots we're really going to struggle against competent players if they play back at us. On this board, I can't imagine that we could have a stronger than ace-5. We could maybe have 1-2 pair combo, and that would be king-9. We might limping king-9 off, we might limping king-9 suited. They're probably going to be our only 2 pair combos using this strategy. We are pretty range capped on this sort of board. The other situation I like to use this strategy, when there's a dead small blind and therefore the big blind is less likely to play back at us because there is less money in the pot. We can limp our stronger or even monster hands to force them to play the pot out of position with us. We can let them catch up and make second best hands which we can then extract value from. This one's pretty standard. It follows the same premise as this whole strategy. This whole strategy revolves around the idea that if there's less money in the pot to start with, the players out of position are not going to be as aggressive against us because there's less chips for them to win. This is the exact same situation with a dead small blind. He's going to be much less inclined to 3-bet you, to play back at you. And when we have a monster, we really want them to play back at us because we want to get our chips in and we want to realise the equity of that hand. This is a brilliant way to do that. Now, let's look at ways when button limping is a good exploit. Sorry, coughing a bit. We have a short stack who is less than 15 big blinds. He is, in our regards, he's an extremely poor player or he's an extremely aggressive player. And we pick up a monster unopened in the button. This is obviously something which I'm sure you guys have seen before. People will limp in their monsters to trap. This is just very standard and it's a good way of extracting value. Even a reasonably bad aggressive player, if we're limping off 10 big blinds, might attack us, whereas if we min raise off 10 big blinds, he may not feel like he has that fold equity. It gives us a little bit more room to let them make a mistake. We have an excellent 4-bet all-in size stack. We have a good 4-bet all-in hand, and we're against an extremely aggressive player in the blinds. We do not want to have to play an all-in pot against this player. Think of stack sizes like 25 to 30 big blinds and we have a hand like ace-jack offsuit on the button. If we min raise, he may 3-bet shove for this stack size, and this would put us in a very uncomfortable spot. We definitely have a profitable call in this spot because we're ahead of their ranges. However, the equity of this call is probably less than our overall equity against such a poor player in the blinds. Think about it this way, if we raise call here and we have an overall equity against their range of 60%, we're probably getting less equity from that call than we would if we could play the pot in position and play the streets against them with such a good hand. We'll probably extract more money long term by being able to somehow play the streets. My way to manipulate this is we will limp, and therefore their raise size will now usually, instead of a jam, be to around 4 to 6 big blinds at the most. Then we can comfortably jam our stack in and give them the decision to call it off. The equity of our hand against their calling range and the fold equity from the limp jam allows us to realise our edge and our equity against this weak player. There's a hand example here. I will be putting this Word document up on the BRS page as well with the video. It's a hand where Davide Guitar uses the limp strategy. It's pretty sexy. Give it a look. Okay, first up, here we have the queen tray on the button. Stack sizes are effective at 10, just under 10 big blinds in the big blind. This guy's a bit deeper, however queen 3 is going to be a hand that's very difficult to raise call against Master GJ. I don't think even at this stack size it's going to be profitable, therefore I prefer to limp, control the size of the pot, and we can get away without losing 2 big blinds. Similar spot, here we limp in, as the effective stack is around 20 bigs. We don't want to get blown off our hand by a jam. In these spots when we flop the absolute top of our range, it is fine now, I think, to check these hands back. Up at this point, I believe I was stabbing almost every single flop, but the stabs have such a high success rate because people don't play back at us in these spots, that I think when we flop this good, we have the ace, we have the backdoor straight, we have the backdoor diamonds. Our opponent's going to have so few aces in his range. I think checking back these flops are going to be fine. Indeed, we get a fold to a 3rd pot size bet. Here is the different example that I spoke about where we can limp to trap. We have a very good hand on the button, effective stacks behind the 10 big blinds. Neil, you're a great player, mate, but we're trying to exploit you here, hoping you jam. Indeed you do. And I think we run into your fives and lose a flip. So this one was actually pretty standard. Very similar spot here. The ace-9 we can limp in, as both players are very short. We want to play a smaller pot against Adhu, and it saves us chips against Neil rather than having to raise call him off. Same tournament, same spot. We don't want to have to raise call Adhu. We don't want to put ourselves in a difficult spot against Neil, and we can raise fold rather than raise call. This will also massively lower our variance in spots like this, whereas if we min raise, we probably have to call off a lot of these hands because our pot odds will just be too good. We don't want to be taking super high variance spots when we think we have an edge in tournament, so we can limp fold and save our stack. Same tournament, queen 6, same spot. Effective stack is very, very short, with this guy having around 15 bigs. We can limp, and when the raise size is made to this is what I spoke about. With the raise size will usually be smaller rather than a jam. Here we have a very, very profitable call in position. Our pot odds are 2.16 to 1. We only have to realise 32% equity in the pot. With this hand, we're probably going to have that, and especially with our position, we're going to have that. We see a pretty good flop. We can call 1. Neil blows us off the hand. Well played. We can probably jam the flop, but it's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the pre-flop spots. So here, ace deuce, definitely a hand we want to be playing in position. We can definitely get 3-bet off the hand very comfortably by both always bluff and cheesy brumming. Hello to both of you if you're listening. What we don't want to have to do is to be folding our aces when we're probably ahead of their ranges. This gives us a great way to see the flop. We flop pretty good with the gut shot in terms of our actual hand strength, but this should show you the strength of this strategy. I want people to think about who has the range advantage on a board like this. I will be talking about this a lot, and this is why this strategy is still really working very well. We're not going to be limping in the offsuit combos of 3-5. We're not going to be limping in the offsuit combos of 6-3. We might limp some of the suited combinations, but we're not going to be limping in hands like pocket tens most of the time here, but they're not quite short enough to trap. So we're actually very, very capped on this board. If people really think about it, we have only the suited combos of 2-pair hands at best. We have almost no overpairs. Therefore, this is a board where we really, really should be getting exploited using this strategy, because the big blind has every single possible combination of hands in his range. He can have every 5-3, he can have every 6-3, suited and unsuited. He can have every 6-5 suited and unsuited. The only hands he doesn't have in his range as well are the big overpairs, but obviously we also don't have them. He has a real range advantage, and therefore on these sorts of boards we really should be getting blown off our hand a lot. And all we have to do is bet and take it. One for Mr. Kasuf, 9 high like a boss. We limp in because Barra Blanco is 10 big blinds deep. We want to play our hand as it's absolutely beautiful on the button. However, we don't want to get blown off our equity. Always helps when you flop the absolute world. Again, as I said earlier, I feel like these spots are ones we can check back simply because we're going to take the pot with the stabs. As you see, the stabs are just so profitable. When we flop this good, I think we can check back to let our opponents make second best hands. That's a way to even refine the strategy even more. Here, this is me balancing my range. As I said before, we have reasonably good players in the big blinds. You know, we've got a decent sample on him. His stats look slightly aggressive, but you know, not too crazy. Seems like a fairly competent player. So we limp in a stronger hand because we don't particularly want to have to raise call off the small blind for nearly 20 bigs. We can comfortably raise call King 10 suited, I believe, against the big blind. And if he checks, we get to see a flop every time. Again, think about range advantage on boards like this. We're not going to have 9-5 offsuit. We're not going to have 5-8 offsuit. We're probably not going to have 9-8 offsuit, but we might. We might not even have 8-5 suited. I would, not everyone would. But therefore, you know, our 2-pair combos are very low. We're not going to have the offsuit combos of 6-7. He is. You know, he's going to have much more spade combos than us because we're not going to be limping in deuce 3 of spades. He's got that in his range. We might not limp all combos of 10-7. You know, 10-7 offsuit we might limp, so he's got more open-enders than us. We're at a real range disadvantage on this board, and yet we can still bet half pot and take it. This strategy, you will know when it's stopping working, you will know when it's no longer profitable, because it will be board textures like this where you think your opponent should have a range advantage, they will be playing back at you. Until that starts happening, and I've been using this strategy for 2.5 years, up until then it's still absolutely golden. Here we have the Jack 9 off. Both blinds are very short. Our hand plays beautifully in position, I think. We don't want to have to raise call off either stack. We'd probably have to raise call Byron if we made it 2.5x. We probably could still fold against Cheesy. We see a flop again. I don't want to make the same point over and over again, but we don't have anywhere near as many 5s in our range as Cheesy. We're not limping 5 deuce off. We're not limping 5-3 off. We're not limping King 5 offsuit. We might do King 5 off, but you get the picture. We're not going to limp 5-4 suited because we can't really stand a jam in that. We're not going to limp 5 deuce suited. He has all the 5s in his range. He's going to have more queens because we're not going to limp Queen deuce offsuit. We're going to start with, you know, the low suited queens and something like Queen 7 suited. We're at a range disadvantage on this board, and yet we can bet and we can win very, very easily. Ace 4 suited, exact same tournament, exact same spot. We don't want to get blown off our equity. I think we have a profitable jam with Ace 4. That's another way to look at these spots. You can definitely jam here for 10 big blinds. However, especially in the Satis, I'm sure you guys all feel as I do that they're pretty easy to make money from. We're going to be, you know, among the best players in the fields. We don't want to be getting blown off our equity. We don't want to be taking high variance lines. We want to lower the variance, let our skill edge matter, and we want to win the pots that way. We flop top of our range again, as I've already said. I won't bang on about it too much. We could check these boards back, because when we stab, we're taking them down when we have the absolute world anyway. Queen 10 suited, plays beautifully in position. We could profitably raise call Swordfish, I think. Now again, it's going to be a very, very high variance line. So I prefer, let's just try and see a flop. Let's let him jam. Now we're not priced in. We have to have 43% equity against his range to make this call. Will we have that? Maybe, maybe not. It's going to be very, very close. With the added variance, I don't think that's a profitable spot. If we'd made it 20-25k, I think we'd have to call it off because we'd be needing something like 35% equity in the spot to continue. Helps us get away. Ace 4 off. Same spot, nice low stacks. We don't want to get 3-bet off our hand. We see a pretty horrible flop for our hand. We get donk led into. We don't need to do anything about it. Here we have the deuces. As I said before, when there's a dead small blind, people will play black less. With deuces, we could definitely make a call. We could definitely make a raise here because our hand isn't going to be absolutely spectacular on most flops. However, I like to limp these hands in, play pots, force people to play streets against us, because we can win more chips that way. And we can also just flop a set. It's always nice, isn't it? We make a small bet, we get a call. I believe we overbet the turn. We do, and we don't get a call. Fancy play syndrome there by me on the turn. Very, very similar spot to the ones we've seen. We have less than 20 big blinds effective stack. It's going to be very, very tough to min raise this hand and do anything against a 3-bet. However, we could definitely limp call most raise sizes. And it lets us see a flop. Again, think about range advantage here. This board in particular is horrible for us if we really analyse the hand. We don't have 5 deuce offsuit. We do not have 5 deuce suited. We do not have Jack 5 offsuit. We do not have Jack deuce offsuit. The only 2-pair combo we really might realistically have here is Jack 5 suited. We don't have 3-4 offsuit. We might have 3-4 suited, but unlikely. So we have almost no open-enders, so no good draws. We have almost no hands which can beat 1 pair, apart from maybe 2 combos of exactly Jack 5 of clubs and Jack 5 of hearts. We have almost no good 1-pair hands, because we're going to be capped somewhere around Queen Jack, Jack 10. We're not going to be betting a lone 5 very often here, because we're going to be, checking it back for pot control with 2nd pair. So when we're betting, we really should be getting check raised with a massive frequency on this board if anyone is going to start exploiting this strategy, and yet we take it down no problem. Low variance, easy. We have to Kasoof again. Very similar spot. Big blind has an easy 3-bet rip on us. If we can make a min raise, it's a great spot for him. Get to see a flop, flop very well. Take it down. Similar spot I was talking to earlier where we had the deuces. We want to force the opponent to play a hand with us. If we min raise, we're just going to take it down so often because he's just not going to fight back in a pot where there's no small blind, giving him extra incentive to call. Let's force him to play a hand with us. Good things can come from it, as I prove here. We make a small bet. We get shipped on. With King 10 offsuit, obviously it's possible he may have called our jam. He may not. It's quite a close spot when there's no small blind giving him incentive. With this strategy, he's had to see the flop. He might have ripped it on us anyway as a steal. He's had to see the flop. He's made his 2nd best hand. He's got himself in trouble. Exact same spot. Sorry, Barrow, if you're watching. Trying to trap you. Well played though, because you feel the noose around your neck and get away. Another spot I'm using limps. I won't go over this one too much. I'm often using them deeper stacked as well now if we have hands that flop brilliantly but we don't want to play bloated flops with. Here I don't want to make, at this sort of blind level, off 100 big blinds, standard size is usually going to be 2.8, 3x. We're going to be getting 3-bet up to 9 or 10x. Hand flops brilliantly. Why do we want to be putting in 10% of our stack pre-flop? Let's just see a flop. And let's just win the pot, no pressure. 10-5 off. I believe this is a misclick hand. I'll just run through it very quickly. Yep, I think that's a misclick. 10-7 offsuit. Our stack is 10 big blinds. Always bluff is... Sorry, our stack is 15 bigs. Always bluff is 10 bigs. We're going to be getting 3-bet ripped on here with a fantastic frequency. Let's take that away from them. Think again about ranges. We don't have the offsuit combos of Queen 4 and Jack 4. They do. We have all the combinations of Queen Jack, so we actually do flop better on this. We have all the combinations of 9-10. We have all the combinations of King 10. We have a much stronger hand on this board, but even so, we're still not at the top. We're still not particularly strong. They have more 2-pair combos than us. They have more flush draw combos than us. Think about those spots. And yet, even with that, we're taking it down, no problem. Ace 5, I think this might be a bubble in the hypers. Yep. But again, you can see the spot here. I think a lot of people would min raise and call him off even on the bubble. By limping in, he's been forced to show his hand very quickly. This is indicative of a monster, I think. We can just get away. We've probably saved ourselves 15k chips, unless we were going to get there. Exact same spot on the bubble. Let's try and exploit this guy. Let's try and, keep the pot small so we can hopefully play 4 cards against 2 to make our ticket. And gets a bit fruity. We get away. No damage to our stack. Exact same tournament, exact same spot. Let's try and play 4 cards against 2, make our ticket. I think we get a lovely king high run out here and everyone chops. Ace 5 off. As you can see, this guy's got 4 big blinds in the small blind. This guy's sitting on 20 bigs. The theory behind a limp here for me is we can limp and we can call off the small blind and we can fold to the big blind without being priced into call. Gives us a much better, much better way to limp call this guy, limp fold to this guy. Much safer way of playing the hand. Again, think about ranges. We're not going to have 9-6 off. We're not going to have 9-5 off. We're probably not going to have 5-6 off. We've only got the suited combos of 2 pairs. We don't have the offsuit combos of 7-8. He's got more flush draws because he has all the low flush draws. We don't. We don't have the combos of 3-4 for the bottom open ender. He does. He's got more gut shots than us because he's got all the 10-7 offsuit combos. Because we're simply not going to be limping these sorts of hands in when we're forced to call the small blind off anyway. He's got a stronger range, yet he isn't making a single aggressive move at the pot. We can show our hand down on the river and hopefully win, or we can use the ace of hearts to make a bluff to try and bluff him off a 6. Either line is fine. Not here to talk about the post-flop line so much. But as you can see, he's got a gut shot here. He's got a backdoor flush draw on the flop. Not a single aggressive move at the flop. At the pot, sorry. That's the end of the hands, guys. Hopefully after some editing, this video isn't completely horrible. For anyone who watches it, thank you very much. For anyone who signs up to my sessions because you enjoyed it, thank you even more. This is Paul Allen, Sheldon Cooper, signing out. See you at the tables, fellow BRS guys. Oi oi!